EFLtalks. Yay. So, hello, everybody. It is, I don't even know what date it is. It's December 5th, and we're here for another exciting EFL Talks. I'm Rob Howard, and we have a great lineup today. You can see most of us are here and welcoming you and saying hello. If you're not familiar with the EFL Talks, just a quick one. What we did is I started this 5 years ago, and the idea is to bring quick, easy, fast, fun, and free CPD to teachers all over the world. So if your friends are not here today and missing it, you can tell them that they can see all the recordings later on our YouTube channel. Just go to EFLtalks.com. And a very special thank you to Hind. Say hi, Hind.
Hi.
No, say hi, Hind.
Oh, hi, Hind.
There you go. Hind put this together and got everything organized. And very happy to be here with KSAALT TESOL and all the crew that they brought together, most of whom are veteran EFL talkers. So it's nice to have you all here again. So we'll talk a little bit more about EFL Talks as we go along. But remember, everybody only has 10 minutes, 10 slides. I have an official timer. And Hind, and actually I think almost everybody here will tell you, I will cut everybody off if they haven't finished at 10 minutes. Yes, George knows well. So, what we'll do is we're going to get started with our first speaker and welcome everybody. And let's bring up Anastasia. And I'm going to let you introduce yourselves. So, Anastasia.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to spotlight you so everybody can see you as the speaker.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are. Anastasia Kawaja.
Share your slides.
Oh, am I?
Share your slides.
All right, sure. Let me do that. I am in Tampa, Florida. I am a senior instructor at Into University of South Florida, and currently on the Membership Professional Council for TESOL International. I'm the affiliate in Sunshine State TESOL, but because of the pandemic, I've been able to be an affiliate member of a lot of great organizations, including TESOL Golf and Nile TESOL and KSAALT as well, which is why we are here. So today, the topic is, of course, adapting to teaching online. And I'm going to focus a little bit on what I have done to do that. And part of that is just basically getting out of my comfort zone. Oh, I think that oops, those aren't my slides. Oh, there we go. All right, let me try one more time. There we go. There we go. All right, so adapting to teaching online. Am I being timed right now? Or no?
Go ahead.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
All right, so here we go. Basically, what we have seen is this. I think towards the beginning of everything, we definitely had maybe some people using their cameras, and then eventually I think the novelty kind of wore off for a lot of our students. And so then they realized, oh, I can turn on my camera, I can turn off my volume, and I can be there. But really what it turns out to be, if you're in classroom teaching and you're trying to work from a face-to-face context with regards to teaching techniques, it's more of a seance, as I've said in a couple of presentations before, where you're like, hello, Robert, are you there? Please speak to me, because you do not know where they are, what they are doing. And so you have to find a way to bring engagement to them. How do you know if they are actually focusing on what you are talking about? So a couple of things that I've really had to do is because we very much face an uphill battle, especially in the ESL context. We know engagement is key in SLA. We know engagement in the literature has typically been assessed face-to-face. And we also know that face-to-face teaching online does not work, or at least we've realized that if you've been thrown into online teaching, I think for a lot of us since maybe March, although there has been some hybrid face-to-face options here and there, the cameras are mostly off and students realize they can be multitaskers. They could be taking care of children. They could be watching their shows. I mean, who are we kidding? Even when I was face-to-face, I would have students watching the latest soccer match on their computer while taking notes in my class. But now they can do that without anybody really realizing. So I very much had to kind of go back and reimagine student engagement online. And I've had to very much partner with my students and step outside of my own comfort zone. And one of the biggest things that I have never really dabbled in ever is playing games in class. It's not that I ever thought that they were ever a waste of time. It was that I just never really, there was always so much more in the syllabus. There were so many more things to do. I never really had to work with them. I learned about Kahoot years ago. I learned about Flippity a long time ago. There were other things I was doing. But when you're faced with a blank screen and you have to find ways to see if students are being engaged, it was actually Deborah Healy's plenary from the summer TESOL convention where she talked all about gamification in games. I kind of thought, well, maybe there might be something there. And so in the fall, I vowed to try this with my students. My university students, should I say, this semester. And so really what I tried to do is do more of a partnership with my students. I talked about this in a few other presentations when really a partnership is really called an arrangement in which people engage in activity or business with one another or share something with each other. And so as Will Ferrell here tells us, you should try being the part in the partnership instead of the ship. Personal fan of Will Ferrell. In fact, this 'tis the season for Elf, a great holiday movie, which we haven't seen yet as a family, but we will. All right, so I've had to reimagine student engagement and I incorporated games in some of my classes. So I designed and distributed a survey asking how students feel about games in class. Now the majority played computer games, they like computer games, and roughly half have played games in class. Most students see the value in playing games in class. It helps reach out to more friends. It helps, it's helpful if they are related to the lecture. And students have also said, I never think about that during class, I just study. So a lot of students really knew about games. Most were open to trying games. And a couple had never really thought about having games in the teaching context, or rather in the classroom rather. And so I asked, what do you think gamification is? Most students said, well, that it's involving games that can help in studying in our classes. How can we use games in class? And so students said, oh, well, topics can be written by us. The teacher can choose what group is better. It can improve our critical thinking. And the one thing that really got me thinking is that it may help us to get rid of the language barrier. Because even when you are teaching in ESL classes, you're still going to have a varied range of proficiency with your students. And that's definitely been much more of a challenge given that you basically only have usually audio to assess unless they actually have their videos on. And also students said that for enthusiasm, students will be helpful. They can be active in the classroom. And so the pre-survey was quite helpful with regard to, yes, I think maybe games could actually work. So then later, towards the end of the semester, students were able to produce games like Kahoot. Students did Flippity. A couple of them did Mentimeter, which I also introduced them to. So I introduced them to a variety of sources and we investigated together. And so as part of their discussion leading and as part of their ways in which they had to ask students questions, they had to think of some kind of gamification element. And so by the end I asked students, so what do you think of games now that you have engaged in games, you've created games yourself? They said, I think gamification is more common, it's more diverse, I think it's a better phenomenon. Class will become less rigid. Students will not feel sleepy and tired. And this is very true. I taught a 2.5-hour class twice a week. Well, because it's hybrid, or rather it's remote, we do half the class asynchronous, half the class synchronous. So once a week we were online for 2.5 hours. And it's a lot. Even if you take little breaks, it's a lot to be online that long. And so when we had discussion leading, which I had maybe 1 or 2 per class, anytime there was like a Kahoot or a flippity, the mood lifted. Students were like, oh, this is a game, this is exciting. Sometimes students threw in questions like, are you tired? Yes or no? And then, so little things to kind of see if they're paying attention. And a couple of students who thought, you know what, games, but at the end of the semester, they said, you know what, my opinion changed because I found that there are some games in which I can learn knowledge. And he said, yes, in the beginning of the semester, I did not think it is a good element, but after I experienced it, my opinion changed. And so I had believers in adding games to class, and I myself became a believer. And it's helped me to even really step more outside of my comfort zone and see what else might be out there with regard to developing these types of games online. Because again, I hadn't really dabbled on this until now. And so just because I'm a visual person, I took a lot of their responses from their post survey and I put them into a word cloud. And you see some of the words like think and yes and playing, helpful, better, enjoyed, is it projects, interesting, class. But the big word here was think. Games were able to help them to think more. And especially during this very interesting teaching time, it was really helpful for student engagement, even if most of their videos are off. And again, there are so many reasons why videos are off. It could be just comfort level. It could be cultural reasons. It could just be wireless bandwidth. I know that sometimes if I had a 2.5-hour class and students were presenting, I turned my video off because it just helped with the bandwidth better. So there's a lot of reasons why videos are off. But how can we at least meet them, still engage them, still help them, still follow the syllabus, and still have a successful semester? Step outside your comfort zone, engage and partner and share their responsibility with the students. I've also, for just about every presentation I have done remotely, I've also shared this because I've realized, especially during this pandemic and while we are still somewhat secluded from our students and from our colleagues and peers and friends, it's not just about I've got this, it's we've got this, because we've really had to come together to reimagine things virtually. And I've been able to be involved in a lot of amazing professional development because of that. So it's really much more of a we got this together. And this is hence one of these amazing gatherings we're having this morning, this afternoon, this evening. We've got this and we continue to do this. And it was a pleasure to kick off this section of KSAALT EFLtalks. And I think I'm 30 seconds, at 30 seconds left. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. And yes, you still got a little time left. Amazing. By the way, I watched Elf this morning for the first time.
Oh, you did? Yeah, it's a classic. It's a classic.
Yeah, it is. So enjoy. All right, Anastasia, thanks so much. And it seems like I see you every week, so I'll probably see you next week too, right? Okay, so next up is Crystal Brody. Where's Crystal? Now, I see your slides, Crystal.
Can you see me and hear me?
Yes, I can. Hang on, let me spotlight your video so everybody sees you. Great. So, well, I want to embarrass you just for 1 second. Congratulations, you are officially the 400th EFLtalks speaker. Yay!
I'm excited. Thank you.
Me too. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes. You have your slides. You get everything you need and ready to go?
Well, thank you. I mean, what an honor, and I so applaud this initiative. Since COVID started, everybody and their dog is putting out webinars and Zoom meetings, and you guys started it so much earlier, and you really have it down and know how to do this. So congratulations to that. I want to talk about turning challenges into opportunities. And as a teacher, trainer, and teacher of many years, I want to talk about learning to unlearn. So I've taught German as a foreign and second language, French as a second language, English as a foreign second language, and and I've been teacher trainer, so I know a little bit about teaching languages. And many of us are so influenced by the way we were taught and we were successful in learning a language, so that was the impetus for us to become a language teacher. And oftentimes one of the biggest problems we teachers have is to unlearn something that becomes so enormously comfortable for us. So that's what I want to focus on here today. And I need to see that my streaming works. Okay. So many times when we encounter an unlearning situation, and COVID certainly was pushing us to that end, we actually have a physical brain reaction when we have fear or apprehension about something. And there you can read all the details here, but it is an identified phenomenon that happens, and I see it every day in my teachers still, even after we started this COVID stuff in March, they still have this. And what happens then, which is dangerous, is that our emotional regulation center of our brain is underactivated, and our prefrontal cortex is also underactivated. And you know what? It is crazy. It makes it very difficult to think, and that thinking skill is what we need right now. And when we cannot access that frontal cortex part, we have trouble. So that prevents this relearning business. And then the second one we need to remind ourselves of, and you remember this from your teacher training, the developmental and cognitive psychology talks about disequilibrium as the engine of learning. And it's we're seeking the optimal state of feeling comfortable, and every time we encounter something that we're not familiar with, which we are right now, we have cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance for us humans creates a feeling of being uncomfortable, being scared. And when we do not know that this apprehension is what powers our learning in the future, we're letting go of one of the most important engines for learning, because we need that disequilibrium for good learning to occur. And I just wanted to point out those two things. And the other thing is metacognition, one of the most neglected aspects of teaching in general and language teaching, the knowing about knowing how I do things. And this also is something we need to teach our students very clearly for our online classes. Have an awareness of your online presence. How do you present yourself in your class, in your room, on Zoom, in your social media? How do you know what kind of time and work management you have? Have you ever thought about that? What happens when you multitask? We can do experiments with our students showing them what happens to their cognitive load when they do this. We need to also have an expectation of problems to happen, like technology, cameras, anything can go wrong, right? In normal teaching anyway, but on online, it's a different kinds of problems. We also need to be aware of how we communicate in a different way. And we also need to be aware of how to establish a caring culture in the online environment. And lastly, and not to neglect, we need to be aware of when we need rest and mindfulness activities. If we are not aware that we're wearing ourselves out totally, we are like a candle that burns itself out, and we cannot give any light anymore to our students. So my mantra is, one thing that I saw going wrong in almost all the teachers I work with, they all try to reinvent the wheel on their particular issues. They do not work smarter, they work harder. And I always tell them, don't do that. Somebody else has already thought about the same problem and has created a resource you can find online. And to that end, many teachers are really unsure what resources they should use, because they get bombarded since COVID with hundreds and maybe thousands even of products and apps and widgets, and they're like, stop this, I can't deal with this. And they don't know how to weed out stuff. They don't know which ones are research based, which ones already existed and were all used before COVID, are internationally respected, and are specific for the environment. So I want to just throw out the resources that are absolutely meeting all these standards. It's the ISTE standards for people who don't know how to differentiate online, Universal Design of Learning at the KSAALT Center, and how do I plan classes and lessons that assure online quality. Quality matters, a research-based system for offering classes online. All of these have free resources and for all levels and classes and topics. So we need to always, as teachers, remember that connecting with the students is the basic tenet of teaching. Remember Maslow's hierarchy of need, feeling safe, feeling cared for is the most important thing. If we get so worked up and so nervous and so agitated and so unsure about our skills, we don't make our students feel secure. They know exactly how their teacher feels. They know it in the classroom, they know it online. Students always remember later how a teacher makes them feel, and not necessarily what they taught them if you ask them later. We also need to remember that good teaching is good teaching. It doesn't matter what my delivery mode is. And digital classrooms always should mirror effective face-to-face classrooms in activities, in how we bring students to work collaboratively, project-based learning, all these things. Whatever are good strategies for our normal classrooms that we are used to, we can apply in the online classroom. We need to remember to have confidence in our ability to teach effectively, no matter how and where. We just need to believe that, and we need to have that as our basic value. We need to also innately believe that students can learn. We need to have that faith that our students are there to learn, even though I know in reality some students tune out, and maybe we need to mess around with that, like Anastasia said before. But we have to believe that they can learn. And if we don't have those two tenets, it's almost impossible. So I want to put out a challenge. I want to mention the Unesco's World Teacher Day, October 5. It's over, but they still have this year-long challenge. Leading in crisis and reimagining the futures is the challenge that UNESCO poses to teachers. And this is really, for the first time, all of us teachers across the whole world have the same challenges. And we have so much in common all of a sudden, no matter how our conditions, cultures, religions, everything, we all face the same issues. And it is actually the opportunity to apply a sense of professionalism that we oftentimes don't get afforded by our workplaces, and the opportunity to be innovative and leave routines behind. So I want to close with my challenge to you. We have to just believe that we are the specialists on learning, and that we're committed lifelong learners, and that we can use these skills in all kinds of circumstances. We should never focus on what we don't have anymore, but what we do have now. We also have this amazing opportunity to leave the 19th century schools and methods behind, and can dream up a totally new future with 21st century instruction that our students so crave. We can dedicate ourselves to unlearning what we already feel so comfortable with, and relearning what we need to learn. And we can be these professionals that we couldn't many times be before, because we were so crammed into these frameworks by our workplaces. And so that's my challenge to you. And here's my contact for you if you want to contact me in any way. But thank you so much for having me, and being the 400s is a great honor for me. And have a great couple of sessions today.
Perfect timing. Well, Krista, that was great. I especially like the unlearning the bad habits and the things that we've been doing in the past. It's a great opportunity. So thank you so much for being here. And without further ado, we shall move on to the boss. She's already taking over. Fatma, Fatma, thank you so much. Anybody who's here from KSAALT knows this is the new president, so she's my boss for today. And thank you so much for working with him and putting this together. It's great, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, Rob. And thank you so much for the introduction. Yes, I'm the current KSAALT TESOL president, and we are delighted to partner with EFLtalks to deliver this last session in the Fast Forward series. So this is a very good ending to the Fast Forward series. I couldn't have asked for something better. And after this, we'll have the chapter reps who would be taking the ball forward when it comes to professional development. So hello, everybody. As you can see, I'm the KSAALT TESOL president 2020 to 2022. And I'm also the vice president of Master English Education and Training based in the Gulf region. We pretty much deal with all the Gulf countries, and also the local training center, which is the ACT Center. So without any further delay, yes. So I'd like to start with stuff that happened in lockdown. My topic, okay, Anastasia and Dr. Crystal, they've given a very technical and pedagogical perspective on online teaching. Mine is a bit lighthearted because I wanted to keep it lighthearted just so you can enjoy. So so stuff happened in lockdown with me. A lot of stuff happened in lockdown. So let's just see what is that stuff. Okay. So my story starts on the 8th of March 2020 when the official lockdown was announced in Saudi Arabia. All of us were confused. We didn't know what to do, and all the offices were closed down. It was a state of national emergency. We were staying at home. There was just so much going on. It actually looked like a science fiction movie. I know a lot of the people I know, they relate themselves to the Parasite, the Korean movie back there. But honestly, I didn't see it, so I don't know how close it falls to that particular scenario. Well, anyways, on the office front, we didn't know what to do. We were running a few student training sessions, we were running a few teacher training sessions, and all of a sudden, boom, this COVID thing happened. And overnight, it took a week, about 10 days to actually have a clear picture of the entire scenario that was actually happening. And then after 10 days, we decided, okay, we have to move to the online portal. So why not? And then the tech happened. So everything just happened because it was not actually planned. Nobody actually thought that we would actually be witnessing an actual pandemic in 2020. I actually thought a lot of good stuff was going to start in 2020. But anyways, that's another story. So yes, so when the tech happened, all of a sudden, all of these online teaching courses were booming. And there were just too many to choose from. Which ones would actually apply to me? For me, what matters is that I'm doing PD that will allow me to develop, that allow me to grow and actually apply all the strategies. So train, and at the same time, we train adults back at our center. So training adults online isn't easy. Most of them are like, no, we can't do it. We're not familiar with IT. Some of them even complain they don't have a laptop. So it was difficult. So we had to convince them. So, and eventually I realized that my life was all about being online. And that means I'm more of a face-to-face person. Most of the teachers who've attended my workshops and programs and, the places where I've given talks, they know that I'm all about hands-on. I don't lecture too much, although there are times when I do, but online was something I didn't picture at all. There was this one time I got to experience Zoom, but that's another story. That was just for 10 minutes and was not something too big. But I realized, okay, something is happening. It's the same teacher, but we're using different tools. So what are those different tools? So I started experimenting. So experimented with what. I literally tried every platform I could get my hands on because I just needed to find that comfort zone, okay, where I would be like, okay, this is going to be okay. Take a deep breath. I can pull off an online class. I can pull off online learning, even though I may not be such a great tech person, but I'm going to learn. So my learning started before we actually started the online classes for our teachers and teacher trainees and for our students. So I tested Microsoft Teams, Adobe Connect, Click Meetings, Google Classrooms, Google Meets, Hangouts, Duo, ourcampus.com for uploading stuff online, Dropbox.com, Google Drive, you name it, I've tried it. However, the winner, yay, Zoom. Zoom became my best friend forever, and it still is my best friend forever. So then when I chose my platform, the next step, okay, I need to know more about Zoom, how to get it working. So I signed up for a paid account, and it was time for using it. But then all I knew was just screen share. What can I do apart from screen share and lectures? So I started going through tons of these different articles on a sample that you can see right here, like 7 essential tips using Zoom for online teaching, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that was pretty much there. And I don't know if you know him, but he is basically my Zoom guru. Yes. So I followed his videos. I learned tons. I attended his online workshops. And this is just a sample of what I attended. And it just made my Zoom life so much easier. I finally was getting the confidence that I can pull off online sessions. So if you have not seen any of his Zoom videos or any of his online platform videos, just take a look. They are just so easy to follow, very easy. So I developed my signature style on teaching. Now I'm going to just talk a bit over here because I do believe in personalizing the teaching approach. I keep telling my teachers as well, you need to personalize your teaching approach. So I've decided to include not just doing the PPT, but I started having Padlets, Menti, Answer Garden, Kahoot, Google Forms, breakout rooms, Google Earth, WhatsApp was the essential communication tool with my trainees. SMSs, I would do that if it's something really, really urgent, especially since we deal with the local candidates, clients, or trainees. And yes, we had an online session where it was mandatory to switch on the cameras, and notice was given ahead in advance. It really applies for the female classrooms or the female sessions over here. So we were doing that. We had live online TPs for teachers who were working with children, explain their activity in turn. So we had a YLE expert and myself, and we were trying out different things, and we actually had teachers do live presentation sessions using some of the items, which is very interesting. So the signature approach is what I developed during this COVID time. So every teacher basically should have their signature style, just like they've got signature dishes from prominent restaurants. Why not the teaching as well? I mean, that really shows a unique part of you, right? So my first lockdown teacher presentation click. So I'm so proud of them. I treasure them. So these were the presentations my teachers, they came up with. What you see are the stills, are the clicks, but actually we had a video demonstration of all of these different activities. Those who had children presented with children, and those who didn't have children, They demonstrate at using their own items, and it was just amazing. My first lockdown teacher presentation quite. So I treasure this one. It was a Montessori group, but something hit really hard. So after a while, maybe it was 2 months, almost after, taking constant online sessions, I was like, okay, I really need a break. So obviously back at that time, we didn't have anything that dealt with Zoom fatigue because nobody spoke about Zoom fatigue as of yet. So I had to find out my own ways. And there were times I was really down. There were times I was very depressed. There were times when I didn't get the student feedback like I really wanted to. And and sometimes some online meetings were just going on and on and on without any purpose. So yes. So if you've been there through some of these aspects, so you know that you are suffering from Zoom fatigue. So my way of coping with Zoom fatigue was very, very easy. I was Netflixing. Well, did we have a choice? Saudi Arabia was under a complete lockdown. It's not like I could go to my mom's or we could meet or we could go out anywhere. So it was mostly Netflixing, trying out new dishes, doing some physical exercises back at home, being with my kids, being with my family, and sleeping through and doing my work at the same time, coming up with new innovative ideas. Yes. So yeah. So with this is my presentation, quite lighthearted, just sharing my COVID-19 lockdown experience during this entire lockdown. We are no longer under lockdown. Saudi Arabia is doing very well. And in case if you need a copy of my presentation, please feel free. And I finished on time. I still had 15 seconds, but I think we are good to go. Thank you so much once again.
Great. And what a story.
Yeah. I just had to do that.
Well, it was great. Someday we'll look back on this and laugh. I don't know when, but someday.
Okay.
And
someday.
We can tell all these fun stories to our
yeah.
grandchildren. And they'll say, you had internet back then? Yeah.
That would be interesting. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatma. Okay, now we're going to swing across to the other side of the world. And where's my friend Grazia?
I'm here.
I love it because you always put EFLtalks nice and big on your page. Grazia, how are you, my friend?
Good. How are you? Can you hear me well?
Hear you perfectly.
Thank you.
I have to say, I just put up all the recordings from all the previous EFLtalks, and I was watching the recording from the 5th anniversary. And it was really nice actually hearing what you, Enrique, and Elizabeth said, because I didn't hear anything. And you're a great supporter of EFLtalks, and it's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you. I am happy to be here. So am I ready to start?
You're ready. I've got the timer ready, and take it away.
Perfect. Thank you. So good morning from my side of the world, and good afternoon and good evening. So first I want to say thank you to KSAALT, TESOL for the invitation. Thank you to Hind for reaching out to me. And of course, thank you to Rob for always being a partner in this type of events. It is always a great experience to be part of EFLtalks and all these wonderful things that Rob is doing. I will not tell you right now about myself because as we move along the presentation, you're going to learn a lot about me and what I do. And I wanted to focus my presentation on what happened in our country. And I want to geographically locate you in where we are. So this is Honduras to the right in that map over there. And if you see, we're located in the American continent, also known as the Americas. And we are divided for some reason into different parts. So sometimes it's North America and Latin America. Sometimes we are called North America, Central America, and South America. And if you see, Honduras is located in the center, and I like to call that the heart of the continent. So this is my beautiful country, Honduras. We are divided into 18 departments, and there are many things to do and enjoy. So when you have the opportunity, make sure you come down and visit. So lockdown and what happened to us here in Honduras and what happened to me and my life during lockdown. So March 13 marked the lockdown and everything closed. Businesses were closed and all schools and universities. Mobility was restricted at the beginning to once a week, then to once every 2 weeks, and telework happened. And everything started happening from home. Some people were able to adapt very quickly. Some people were not able to adapt. And some people followed very strictly the lockdown. I was one of them, but other people couldn't because they needed to go out and work. Many people lost their jobs and many people had to go through many difficult things. To date, we have been in lockdown for 9 months. So it has been quite an experience and something interesting that, of course, worldwide we had to adapt, and Honduras was not the difference. And what was more critical about lockdown is that everybody was together at home, right? And we had to look for spaces where to work from, study from, everybody together 24/7, which is not what usually our lives are about, right? So what happened to me? Well, in my day job, I work for the US government at the mission here in USA, Honduras. And what we do and what I do in the education office, I am an education specialist. And what we do is we support the Ministry of Education to build capacity and make sure that we have strong programs for the public schools. And that is a process that we have been working on for several years. Now, with the lockdown and with the pandemic, we had to, as everybody else, go into the virtual context. And this was not an easy task for us because, yes, virtual makes it easy to connect and engage with people if you have the technology available. But what we noticed, and we already knew, that in our country there were a ton of inequities. But with the pandemic, we saw those inequities heightened. And even though we created and we pivoted in 1 week to create a lot of visual and virtual material to be hosted in platforms, internet, and the social media, we saw that we had a number of students that were not getting access to this. So we quickly had to resort to leveraging funding from the private sector and ensuring that they helped us disseminate the learning materials. And we got the materials for learning in television and in radio because there were many rural areas in our country where internet or the virtual platforms were not available. But radio and television were not enough because we still had people in very rural areas, very far away communities that did not have access to TV or radio. And this meant that we had to create printed materials for them. And also, we needed to make sure that we were delivering not only the materials, but also the school meals, because children were not going to school anymore. And the school meals were usually delivered during the school day. So we had to take the school meals and the printed materials for children to continue learning and to continue to be nourished. While the academic part is really something important, we also needed to think that because people were at home all the time, we needed to take care of this social and emotional learning. We needed to make sure that we were taking care of preventing violence at homes. We usually work in very gang dominated areas and neighborhoods. So we needed to make sure that we were addressing gender-based violence or domestic violence at home. And we focused also on those areas and did many things and many interventions to make sure that we were taking care of people while we were focusing on the academics for students. But also we needed to make our population aware of the biosafety protocols that they need to follow. So we needed to create instructions and protocols and ways in which to teach people that we needed to prevent this virus and we needed to prevent the disease. So there was a lot of work involved in what we were doing, and we were trying to reach out all of those communities where we work at. It was, and it has been a very difficult job, and we still are not reaching 100% of the people. Recent assessment that we did, we have found out that we still have around 600,000 students that have either been intermittently engaged with learning or completely disconnected. So we are still doing a lot of work and continue to support the Ministry of Education in these actions. When it comes to my volunteer work with the local affiliate that I founded back in 2014, I am now only their advisor. The board came to me and asked me, what should we do? We are now in this virtual context. We had all these events planned for face-to-face, and we are not going to be able to develop them. What do we do? So we started to brainstorm, and we decided that there was a lot of information out there, and we could overwhelm our teachers, who were already overwhelmed with everything that they needed to do and all the guidelines from the Ministry of Education. What do we do? So we decided that it was right now a good moment to create a needs assessment and to make sure that we understood what the teachers really needed. In this needs assessment, what we found is that teachers did not really need at this time the online sessions, or that we transformed our face-to-face event to a virtual session, but they needed one-to-one contact, and they needed to be empowered into now being virtual teachers, or how to best address the needs of the students they were working with. So we started working with the regional coordinators, and we started helping them by, and in different ways, by creating sessions for them, one-on-one sessions, lessons that we could share with them. And we also decided that it was a good opportunity to share what was being shared all over the world. We also got requests from the region, from Central America, and we thought that it would be a good opportunity to help the region, not only help our country, but help others that were asking for things from us. And we applied to different grants, and the grants, fortunately, we got them, and the grants have been oriented to addressing the needs of teachers in Honduras, proficiency skills for teachers in public schools who are teaching primary, and also building leadership in Central America. And then my other volunteer work, working with TESOL International, well, we had to engage a little bit more often than we had planned. We had meetings at the beginning twice every month because we needed to make hard decisions. And I also had commitments with affiliates in different parts of the world that had already been done before. So I had to deliver those sessions that I had committed to, and I had to do it in a virtual setting. So that meant not only I had to comply with what I had promised, but I also had to adapt what I had thought about before to a virtual context. So that meant I had to start all over again. And well, you know, as educators, we wear many hats, right? We always are doing different things, and we have all these responsibilities. And I am known to wear too many hats. And my husband will often say, are you ever going to stop? Will you ever stop doing so many things? And I think about it for like 2 minutes, and then I start doing too many things again. So this brings an additional level of stress, right? So we are in lockdown, everybody's at home, we're doing everything from home, but I felt so comfortable at home. I had so much time in my hands that I started booking too many things. And this created the stress monster, right? My thyroid had been okay for the last 2 years. It suddenly crashed, and I started getting a little bit sick. And I said, okay, now I need to stop myself. And I need to make sure that I remember what I have learned about and read about self-care, and make sure that I'm taking care of me. And yes, I need to support others, but I also need to make sure that I am supporting myself. So I had to take those 2 steps back and think about it. And I know Rob already turned on his camera, but I want to say that whenever you are in a situation like this, make sure you look at silver linings, right? Make sure that you understand that a situation like this allows you to grow professionally, to learn new skills, to support others in the process, and to make sure you advance your career and you continue to progress in your life. So thank you for the opportunity to share my lockdown experience.
Great, Grazia. When I see all the stuff you do, I feel lazy.
Oh no, don't feel lazy.
Great. Well, it was a pleasure seeing you again, and I'm sure you're going to have more work for me coming up in the next few months. So I'll see you again very soon, won't I? Thanks again. And next up, we're going over to James. James, you can share your slides. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Just waiting for them to pop up here. I apologize, my computer's sometimes a little slow.
Not a problem, as long as you're fast enough.
I'll do my best.
Good.
Okay, so I hope that everyone can see my slides there now.
Yep. Ready? I'll let you go.
I'm going to do a little personal presentation just about me and my own organization at York, and I want to say thank you, of course, to Hind and Rob for putting this together. I'm the Associate Director of York University's English Language Institute, and I'm really sort of glad to be able to talk a little bit about the experiences that I've had over the last 9 or 10 months. I think we were sort of lucky in the fact that we had hybrid courses already, and that made it a little easier for us to be able to shift to being fully online. But what we had at the beginning, and the reason for this title was, we were really an emergency remote teaching situation where we were trying to hurriedly take what we were doing face to face and then just replicate it online. And now I think we are beginning to enter into a new space where we can begin to build with this space in mind. And I think that's, quite a different space than where we started from. Emergency remote teaching is not the same thing as online distance learning. We were in triage mode, as I'm sure all of you were, in the first few weeks, trying to figure out how we could survive. And I think what we've tried to do now is to optimize the quality of our instruction by looking at ways that we can do what we do better than what we were doing before. And so I hope that I can describe, with the sort of humble journey that we've been on, that you might be able to find some way of connecting to that and maybe taking something from it as well. So the things that I was going to look at today are really these 7 pieces. And I've kind of placed them in a rough chronological order so that we can talk about the thought process that we had as we were beginning to plan for our online environment. So the first thing that we wanted to do was to make sure that our teaching staff were well supported and that there was an equal playing field. Of course, there's always teachers who have more of an interest in technology than others. And we knew that that wouldn't work unless we were all, equals. And so the first thing we did was to set about creating an online teaching platform where we could share our best practices. And we called it the Hub. On the left, you can see that what we did is we had 11 different tiles with FAQs and tools and materials and conferences and webinars. And we had a manager who would take what teachers and staff were inputting and then curate them by placing them into those tiles so that everything was easy to find and everything was easy to use. So the goal behind the project was to try to replicate a space that was similar to our office kitchenette, where teachers could engage in some form of shop talk so that we'd have like forums, and we've added in things like a reading club in that space as well, just to try to replicate that sort of homey feeling that we had when we were all face to face. And the image on the right is, of course, some of the content that we've placed, in the hub, where we've provided material to try to get at what a whole student might want in an online environment. So here you can see that we have open access material on kindness and integrity, as well as a lesson plan on exploring the Indigenous people of Canada to really get that immersive ability with our content, and still have our students feel as though they're connected and grounded and immersed in the local culture. And the next thing that we wanted to be able to do was to look at our sort of online proctoring and testing. And so what we had at the start, we were lucky enough before the pandemic to be using the tool Examity for our online proctoring. You could say that York has a bit of a testing culture, at least in the past when we were face to face. And so we had difficulty when the pandemic, of course, first hit, given that so much of that online proctoring was human-based and people were getting sick. We wanted to switch to an AI-based system. So we switched over to Proctorio, and then finally to ProctorTrack, before we realized that we didn't really need to bark up this tree, at least not yet. What we found was that in our effort to try to create a secure testing environment, we were actually losing a little bit of the student experience. They were becoming more stressed at having to deal with an additional layer of technology. There was issues with firewalls and those sorts of things. And so now what we've done is we've actually stripped out all of those systems and instead changed our program to something that's less test focused. And that's been working for us fairly well. We also have a couple of placement tests. We use Duolingo as well as the Michigan Language Assessment in order to be able to make sure that we have everything that we need to handle students' placement issues across the world. And then the next thing that we realized is that we needed to be able to appeal to the whole student. And so one of the things that we wanted to make sure, and we did very early on, it was a very large project for us. We have 5 different programs with multi-level content. And so we knew right away that if we only did synchronous classes with our students, that we would only be appealing to one type of learner, and in a way we'd be shutting out some of that work. And so we spent hundreds of hours in the first session building asynchronous content, which allows students to be able to go at their own pace. And so for students who want to have a more self-directed approach, they can. So what we've done is we've built 3 hours a day of synchronous and 1 hour of asynchronous, so that students are constantly supported in the way that they feel best suits them. And for us, that was a tremendous project because it allowed us to also invest in ourselves, to learn H5P and to learn more about our LMS tools to be able to survive and go from there. And I think it's also important, to be able to, we were under tremendous pressure at the beginning to get up and running and to meet our students' needs. And so there was a lot of stress at the beginning. But one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we had time for was to give everyone enough of a sandbox that they could explore and create things that maybe didn't have an immediate practical value, but were something that would feed the teacher or staff's soul. And so one of the projects that we did in March was we went out and took photos with a 360 camera of all of our extracurricular activities. So even though our students weren't able to go to Niagara Falls or any of these sorts of places, we could still, in a way, bring that content to them by having them see the virtual tour and and interact with all of the images and the audio and the links that accompanied it. And so in this way, we were able to build out something that would hopefully appeal to students, but also give our teachers a way that they could express their creativity. And that's something that we're still working on. And I think the next thing that was important for us as well was to be able to deliver something for the whole student using technology. And so we looked for ways to partner with our university, as you can see from the middle photo here. We tried to find ways to blend in experiential learning using different types of technology. One of the things that we did was partner up with Lausanne, the engineering school, in order to be able to run Unesco's Sustainable Development Goals and to build a project that was student directed and fun and in their off hours and give them that sense of accomplishment. And we did that through volunteering and other forms of engagement as well. And I think the other thing that we wanted to make sure is that we also took that same lighthearted approach to us. Here you can see one of our staff meetings where it happened to be Halloween, and we wanted to make sure that we were all in our virtual costumes and participating and sort of letting the creative juices flow as well. And finally, I think what we saw with this approach was that technology has opened us up to new possibilities to sort of shape and structure what we do, and to make sure that we can attack a number of different things. This is me here doing a recruitment session being piped into Japan. And, one of the interesting things is that this wasn't something that would have been possible in the past, but now with technology, our hierarchy has become flattened and we've become more nimble and flexible. And so technology has really helped us to get through a difficult time in these last 10 months. And I think it's been transformative for us on a number of levels. And I hope that this little journey today not only helped us build resilience and adapt, but hopefully has given you some things to think about as well. So thank you for allowing me to talk to you today, and my contact information is there. And enjoy the rest of the presentations.
Great. Thanks so much, James. That was great. Very interesting at some of the stuff you did. I know a few universities wish they were as ready as you were for everything. Very good. So we're at the halfway point. So I figure I'm going to hand this off to my keen friend, Hind. And since she put this together, I'm going to let her introduce the next guy, because I don't know what to call him anymore. He confuses me with his 5 different names. So Hind, you may take it away. And
Okay, thank you very much, Rob. Now I'd like to introduce our next speaker, George Corompos, who is the Director of Teaching and Learning and Development at Eliamama University. But something else that's really important is that George is one of our board members, KSAALT TESOL, and he's our go-to person for any problems. We just go to George. Thank you so much for all that you do for us, George. And over to you.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Hind, for the introduction. And thank you, Rob, for creating another EFLtalks in our area and region. All right. So I was just discussing and saying that I would also like to thank Jim for being here, because if you see on the lineup, we're the 2 only male presenters. So that would be, we're still a minority. So I think given the discussion we had on the chat box, I think I'm going to create a new hashtag. So more men presenters for ELT. So that's something that we all need to work for. So if you have male colleagues, please invite them, and they should be part of EFLtalks, but also presentation. All right, so now, once upon a time, there was a time where we could travel. And if you are on my Facebook, or if you know me, then you should know that I love traveling. And traveling is one of my passions, I should say. And that was kind of disrupted. Actually, funny story is that the day that I came back, I was in Greece, for TESOL Greece, as usual. And then the day that I came, I landed, I had a connecting flight in Jeddah. So when I came to Riyadh, after a few hours, the airport's closed. So I came from TESOL Greece to class, and then everything just shut down. So talking about shutting down, this is a friend, COVID, that kind of created all this. And as you see, he's crying because he's lonely. So he needs a body to go and live, right? So as you know, viruses can live on their own, but the majority, they have to find somewhere to live. So we are the people that it lives on. After the disruption, that amazing, the BFF that Fatma was talking about earlier, Zoom came along, right? Along with other applications, but I think this is what the platform that has been used, and of course, this is the platform that we're using today. Right, so everybody had plans, everybody had travel plans, and there were lots of cancellations of events, cancellations of major conferences and major events. And that, of course, created lots of frustration. So at the beginning, we didn't know which events were going to be canceled, which events were going to be held. And as I told you, for example, TESOL Greece was the last conference that I was able to go, and was the weekend before the lockdown started here. So it was stressful. And I think what really made it stressful also was that you didn't know, was it going to be canceled? Was it not? And then all of these, different kinds of stresses with the flights, with the refunds, with everything. So I think that came, that was kind of like the most annoying thing. And I think that was something that really affected me as well. Because again, I'm used to going to lots of professional development events around the world. And at different times, we do have a lot of events online now as well. So after all these cancellations, of course, this became our everyday kind of environment. And this is how it all started. So slowly, I think the associations around the world, others were kind of quicker, others were kind of slower. They started transforming their conferences, their events online. So there were lots of webinars. At the beginning also, there were lots of webinars on how to do things, meaning like how to teach online, how to cope with emergency remote instruction, how to organize events, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to give you an example that is very dear to me. So as you know, I'm with the ANPC, the TESOL ANPC, the Affiliate Network Professional Council, which supports the affiliate network of TESOL International, which is more than 110 teacher associations. So for us, we always have our leadership sessions before annual convention, which is usually in March. So those events were canceled, of course. And then the events that we had were usually half a day before the convention started and a couple of sessions during the convention. So with all this, we had kind of like an explosion of events. So we had about 6 or 7 events before the summer convention that TESOL organized. And I want to thank all the ANPC members as well as Jim that is here with us today. And then instead of having half a day, which means almost, 4 to 5 hours of leadership sessions for our affiliate members, we had 3 days. So something that was 5 hours, it suddenly became kind of like 5 hours of professional development. And what we did was that we did it at different time zones. So we were thoughtful of all the affiliates around the world and different time zones. Of course, we had to James, I, and all the organizing members, we had to stay up in our time zones till like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and the last day until 7 a.m. So there was a lot of sessions. We did a lot of preparation, and it worked out. And everybody was thankful because they didn't have the opportunity to attend the annual convention and to do the sessions there, but they were able to attend those 3 days. And we brought the professional councils, the intersections, lots of people, independent associations, not TESOL affiliates. That was actually very, very helpful to everybody. So I'm going to go back to a little bit. And first of all, these are all the conferences that I was able to participate. And if you think about it, I mean, I would never be able to participate in all of these conferences if there was no COVID. So, being to Japan, Israel, New York State, Mexico, Pakistan, California, Greece. I mean, I think it's all over the place. So I'm thankful for actually COVID that gave me the opportunity to be able to be part of this, of all of these events. Now, as I was saying, I'll go back to what Krastia was saying, that, all of this at the beginning was exciting. We all wanted to learn how to do it, how to participate in this and that. But what I would caution is fatigue, Zoom fatigue, and well-being. So we must take care of ourselves. We must set limits. There's a silver lining. We have families. We have other things that we do, hobbies. We have family out there. Especially us that are living in different countries and our families, or even people that live in the US, like in different states or in different cities, it's difficult for people to communicate. So I would say, take a moment, give some time, and communicate with the people that you care about. We do have, actually, the ANPC has taken care of that. And with Anastasia that is here, Jim, and the ANPC members, we have organized a whole day of self-care and well-being, and the sessions are going to be uploaded soon on our YouTube channel of TESOL International. If you go under affiliate events or social responsibility intersection events, you will see those there. Now, this is what I think was discussion on the chat about virtual hug. So this is our an association that was actually started earlier in January this year, and it kind of flourished because of COVID. So this is a virtual hug that we did at TESOL Gulf. And every Tuesday, we have our gathering at 8 p.m. Standard Arabian time, and everybody is welcome. Membership to the association is free. I would like also to share 2 resources, and I'm going to put those in the chat once I finish. The Cultivating Teacher Resilience. This is a 2020 publication, as well as Implementing Deeper Learning and 21st Century Education Reforms. These are great resources, and they're being offered publicly. It's open access by Springer. And I would also like to give a shout out to Springer for giving so many free resources during the pandemic. All right, so I think that's all from me. I would like to thank again Rob and KSAALT and everybody that have put all the work into that. And that's my email at the bottom. And thank you in many languages. And that was my alarm, Jim. Rob?
Great timing, George. Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. And now I'd like to welcome our next speaker, Kathy Lobo. It's great to have you with us, Kathy.
Kathy, you have to unmute. There you go.
Okay. So you should be able to see the slide.
Yes, you can see your slide. I'd like to welcome Kathy Lobo, TESOL International Board Member. It's great to have you with us, Kathy. It's always nice to see you, and thank you so much for being part of our event.
Thank you.
Over-
So the objective today is that I'm going to share my lockdown experience and how I've adapted to the online context, and also just what's happening now as well. And I really appreciate that this is just one of 10 perspectives being shared today. I want to share that I'm a working K-12 public school educator in Massachusetts in the United States. But I have family and friends around the world. I've lived and worked overseas. I've lived overseas and worked overseas for close to 20 years. And in Japan, China, Hong Kong, Australia. And I've done a lot of traveling as well. I have one foot in the higher ed world. I teach as an adjunct professor at Brandeis University in their education department. And I've also taught in other universities like Lesley University. Anyway, lots of professional development for teachers and teacher training. My contact is here. This is the only time you'll see it. So if you want to take a screenshot or whatever, I don't think I'm hard to track down because I'm presently serving as a board member for TESOL International. All right. So in this slide, you see March 2020, the pandemic hit. At the end of February, this is what my classroom looked like. I was a keynote speaker at the Southwest Florida TESOL in Fort Myers on the last day of February, the 29th. And as I was about to be introduced by the president of the university, Florida Gulf University, he and one of the deans were discussing whether or not to take there were students traveling in Italy, and they're like, should we pull them out now? What should we do? What's going on with this virus? My daughter at the time was in China, living in Xi'an, working on a master's degree there. And so I was hearing things from her and what was going on. I decided to make packets. So I used Paul Nation's books, which are kind of a vocabulary reading series. And I made packets so that I would have one per week between when I made them all the way to the end of the year. And I sent them home with the students in a brown envelope. And I said, don't lose this. But this is just the just in case envelope. Like if we have to stay home for a couple of weeks or whatever, you'll have some materials that we can use right away. Well, by the beginning of, middle of March, our last day of school was the 12th of March. The school district said, okay, we need a little bit of time. We'll have maybe 2 weeks home, but let's count these first 5 days as snow days. Massachusetts gets snow. We're actually gonna have snow later today. Anyway, so that was when the school districts kind of got prepared. Finally, the state closed all the public and private schools. I took a screenshot of the TV screen on the day that happened. But what I did is I went home and I kind of cleaned house, you could say. I have 2 children and they're of college age. And I went through and I found all sorts of games and National Geographic magazines and puzzle books. And I thought about each family that I serve and I made kind of a care package. And I packaged things up and then I left them for several days because we weren't really sure about how this virus was spreading, et cetera. And I left them outside in the cold. And then I made deliveries to all of the families. So here's an example of one of the packets that I made. The student in that family was reading the book Smile. So I put the text that we were using. So he would have had his envelope of Paul Nation lessons plus the book that we were reading in class. There was new vocabulary we were learning. All of us were learning, like asynchronous, and that chat didn't always mean that you were going to speak. Words around COVID, hybrid flex A and B, which is actually written hybrid A plus or hybrid B plus in my context. Mask breaks, who ever heard of that? Put your camera on, all these sort of phrases. Unmute, meaning turn your mic on. Why don't we say turn your mic on? And then waffle, the little choices option, how do we talk about these different things in an online context? So these were all sorts of new uses of words. And waiting room that isn't a room. And then Zoom. At the time in March, the TESOL International Board was doing a lot of meetings. We have our annual meetings then. And so I got really good at using Zoom before I use it in my work context. So thank you to TESOL for that. There was new vocabulary for our students. Now, my students, I needed to make sure they knew things like colors, because we have now schedules that first went from blue weeks and orange weeks, and now we're doing pink, green, and purple weeks, and the schedule's different in each of those weeks. Plus, we have the asynchronous and synchronous, the hybrid coming in, the hybrid not coming in, the hybrid flex. It's kind of crazy. Clockwise, counterclockwise, right, left, customary measurement, and the fact that 6 feet can be written as 6 FEET or 6 with the little apostrophe, what those things mean, how to read the things that we have to be reading, like how do you actually read and say time out loud, figuring out elapsed time. Anyway, getting help using this new format only and not having that face-to-face option. So in April and June, yeah, I put this clock here, you know, I felt like Zoom was running my life. This is an example of one of the pollination books and one of the units. Each unit is 6 pages, so it's sort of enough to do and to manage from a distance. And the kids had something in paper, so if they weren't able to be online, they still had something that they could do. Celebrations had to end up being in a new way. So I usually give students a pencil that says happy birthday in every language. Instead, with this mother and son, I made them masks and I dropped them off to their home. And they sent me this picture of the 2 of them wearing their mother-son masks. The graduation from the 8th grade to the high school became a virtual event, and teachers were allowed to say a few words or do something. And I decided to post just a picture of me holding congratulations and wishing you well in the languages of the students that were going on to the high school. Summer, lots of PD. And I put this Massachusetts Teacher Association certificate there, but the school itself, my district, had offerings. They were very careful to say these are offerings of professional development, so we wouldn't be required to do them. But I think most of us spent a lot of time in the summer. I think I earned something like 50 or 60 professional development or CEU points because I didn't know how else to prepare. I ran a summer reading group, and we read these 4 graphic novels, the theme being resilience. Some of the students that were leaving, they really insisted on seeing me. So, and because they were no longer my student, because they had withdrawn from school, I did have some of them come and meet me, or I went and met them. So here's an example of one girl, and she's made a cake and some jam using their family recipe. And then I made pop-up cards. I love pop-up cards. I wanted to prepare the students for what was coming. So there are pictures of my classroom, our classroom, prepared for face-to-face learning, but we began it with Zoom. So the little pop-up part is the little desk and the chair and the computer. First day of school, students, so this is where I live, and I use this room upstairs. You can see the rectangular windows on the 2nd floor. Students came and got packets from the school. This is the 7th grade packet, what the contents are. And this is a picture of actually it was with a 6th grade class, us meeting the students for the first time, saying hello. We had popsicles, and then we all went home and school began. It feels like the game Twister. I don't know if you're familiar with this game, but basically you're told, you are given an instruction like put your elbow on the blue one. Okay, now you put your left foot on the red. And I feel like that's what it's like now. We're getting all these different directives, and some of us are about to topple over. And we do have a tent, so it feels a bit like a circus, juggling the orange and blue and the purple, green, and pink schedules. It just is a lot. And I have a picture of the stairway at my school because of the left-right thing. We're asked to travel through the school in a certain way, and it's described in terms like clockwise, counterclockwise, left, right. Oh, I wanted to add here that this is a music class that's outside. I took this picture yesterday, and it was a music teacher teaching his class outside. Every year I do similar projects. They don't always look the same. Last year we sewed potholders. This year we're sewing masks. And I do this because I had a Brazilian student one time come and ask me, could I give her some glue? She needed to put a button on something. And I was like, I need to show you how to use a needle and thread. And my focus now is on hands-on learning as well as resilience. We're making poetry cubes in class. I teach a different form of poetry every class that we meet. They'll have a portfolio of those, and then they can choose 6 and put them on a cube. I gave some students some seeds. They don't know what they are. We're doing a lot of predicting, talking, using language of math because we're measuring. You can see in this screenshot of it's actually a paper white is the bulb, but the student has given me all of the measurements of the different stems. These seeds, one girl is like, I think they're tomatoes. And I'm like, nope, I think they're, strawberries. They're actually, and this is a secret, radishes and marigolds. These are some of the books that we're going to read this year. I know that you're on the screen. I know the time. Anyway, these are some books that we're reading. And I just wanted to say as a note to all of you about self-care, please have a kind words file. This boy wrote to me when he left, and he brought me these cookies. It was the best year of my life. You were really a good teacher. We learned so much together. I will remember every single class with you. I hope you will have a good time next year. And the thing that makes me really happy here is that he said, we learned so much together, because I really do want to provide a place where we all are learning together and we're learning with one another. So thank you for this opportunity today.
Catherine, you made me think back, being a fan of WGBH, what Zoom used to mean when we were little kids. Remember?
Yeah. I knew one of my friends was on Zoom. Edith.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I can't remember last week, let alone that far back.
He was in the first season of Zoom. Yep.
Oh, great. Very good. Every time I can hear the song still. I won't sing.
I know.
Great. Thanks. Say
the arms.
Yeah, say hi to Massachusetts for me. I miss home.
Well, if any of you are coming through Massachusetts, please let me know, because I love to, if you come in the middle of the night, I pick you up at Logan Airport and I take you to the North End to a 24-hour coffee place. And anyway.
Nice. Nah, I want to go right to Pier 1. Pier 4, Pier 1. Yeah.
No, Pier 4 is gone.
Is it? Oh, no.
Oh, I wanted to say one other thing. One of the things that I do with the students is I often talk about life. And right now we're about to have a snowstorm. And so I talk to the students about how in the winter, we have to turn the taps on so that the water drips, because if the water pipes freeze, it's really a big problem. Well, when I told a student that this year, he was like, oh my gosh, I wish I'd had you as a teacher last year, because my family turned the heat down and went to Japan for 2 weeks over Christmas. And the pipes froze, and they had to pay like $20,000 to get everything fixed up. And he's like, why didn't anybody tell me? And I really feel as though we, in our contexts, have that opportunity to help students build those bridges. So please take that opportunity. And thank you. And
everybody go make your taps drip now. It's cold.
Or put sunscreen on if you're in a warm place.
No, not here. Great, thanks, Kat. We have to talk one of these days, because I know your old neighborhood. One day we will. Thanks. Okay, Hin, take it away. All yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kathy. And now on to our next speaker, Liz England. We're very happy to have you with us, Liz. Liz is a language teacher educator with a long career in TESOL and a busy and fulfilling lockdown experience to share in this session. We're looking forward to your session, Liz, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Hint. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
And can you see me okay? I'm not sure if this thing is working.
Yeah, just start the presentation.
Great, now I just need to make it big, right? Thank you.
Yeah, just start it. Start the slideshow.
Yeah. I'm sorry to be so slow. Thank you for waiting.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
We're very patient people.
Thank you. I am so thrilled to be here at KSAALT, my first experience presenting on your programs. And I'm so happy because, in fact, I was in Saudi Arabia in 2003, before some of you were born, for my first trip, and we were trying then to work out the details. Maybe some of you were there then, trying to work out the details of a teaching association, and there were some problems. But I am so glad to be back with you, and I thank you for having me today. Hind, thank you so much for the invitation. And to everyone who's organized this event, I've thoroughly enjoyed all these stories of lockdown that we've heard until now. I'm going to start my timer so I don't forget that. I know it's important that we stay on schedule. So 10 minutes is now. Okay. So, as other speakers before me today have said, we're in a crisis mode, right? We've all managed to survive, or we wouldn't be here on this call today. By the way, there are more than 100 participants today. I'm very impressed with the turnout and thrilled to be with you. We didn't plan what was going to happen, and that has created for some of us big challenges. When I was on the TESOL board of directors in the early 2000s, we had so many challenges, but absolutely nothing remotely like this. So kudos to Kathy and others, Grazia, who are amazing leaders and through this very challenging time. I don't know when it will end. This is what we say all the time. It's one thing to be asked to do something hard for a time, a couple of weeks or even a month or 2 months. We don't know how long this is going to last. The good news is we just heard, as you've read in the paper, of course, that the vaccine is available, and that's going to make a big change. It's going to hopefully mean the end will be in sight of the lockdown experience that we've been having. My message today is about maintaining a sense of balance, because I am probably the oldest person on this panel, and as Hind kindly commented, I've done a lot of volunteer work for the association, both internationally, as a consultant on many projects in and around Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, North Africa, the Gulf. I'm very lucky to have had the career I've had, but I'm thinking, what can I tell you that hasn't already been said? So I'm going to take the position of a semi-retired professional TESOLer, which I am. And I had the good fortune of running an online teacher education program at the master's level for 12 years. My most recent job was director of a master's in TESOL at Shenandoah University, where hundreds and hundreds of students graduated with masters that they got online. Much more to say on that. I also have a son named Sam, and he's a professor of Arabic language at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And he has traveled a lot because he studied Arabic at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, but he also went to Egypt, to the American University in Cairo for a program there. And he was in Syria just before the struggles began. Actually, he was there at the very beginning. So I have a connection with Arabic language speakers, with the Middle East, North Africa, with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Many of our students over the years have come from Saudi Arabia, and I'm very grateful to have a chance to sit with you today as we talk about issues that are kind of far away here in Virginia. Kathy came to us from Boston, and I love that KSAALT has put together this diverse community. So the visual may be something you can identify with. So there's a big difference between what you plan to do with your life and what happened with your career. I'm going to title my presentation Remotely Together and talk about body, mind, and soul issues. I'm going to divide my photographs into those 3 sections, because in our recently published book on TESOL career path development, we found in the research for that book that really those are the 3 key issues: body, mind, spirit, soul go together. And we're going to be addressing ways in which I, and perhaps it will ring bells with you all as well, have dealt with these 3 sort of aspects of life. We've already had plenty of those in the previous conversations as well. I loved what Fatima said, all of a sudden, boom, because that was true for our bodies, our minds, and our souls. But in our research for this book, we discovered that many professional communities, like doctors and lawyers and engineers, largely male-dominated professions, actually do address these needs of their members. That is, the people who are in those professions address their needs in ways that in TESOL, we, I think, failed to do that. I loved Kathy's presentation just preceding mine, where she talked about projects for students. All of our presenters today talk about their students. We do a lot to think about our students, but today in my presentation, I'd like you to be just a tiny bit selfish and thinking of yourself and your life and your body, mind, and soul, which is tied to your students, of course, but putting yourself in the center of this presentation. So for me, it's been tricky. I've been cooking a lot and working on keeping an eye on my diet and getting exercise. And I put body first because each of us only has one. And I want us to remember the importance of looking after our bodies, because whatever we do with our minds or our spirits requires our body to be able to participate in mind activity for the sake of this discussion, or spiritual activities as well. We have to take care of ourselves. Diet and exercise, super important, not to be forgotten, both for ourselves and our students. These are some photographs that come out of my telephone on the TESOL convention, in the first virtual TESOL convention. A friend came, Richard Boyum, you can see him in the purple shirt there. You may know him. He spent some time in the Middle East as well. Richard and I met on my patio, and then we joined on a Zoom with our friend John Schmidt, who appears above. I don't know why he's making that sign, but he's just being funny. And we joined for some of the TESOL plenary events, so we could be together, kind of remotely together for the TESOL convention. It's too cold now. The temperature today is in the 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which is very cold, and we can't be outside, any of us. So I'm so glad that we were able to have the TESOL convention in weather that was warm in Virginia. My friends and I met at a cafe, an outdoor cafe in our community here in Winchester, Virginia. Has outdoor seatings now with big heaters all around them. But this was again in the summer. We were very lucky in the warm weather. This winter is going to be tough. And I'll be talking about that too a little bit. Hind is featuring large in this, and many of familiar faces, Anastasia and I, but professional development. And George, I think, gave us an outstanding and thorough description of the ANPC's work and other groups. Gulf TESOL Gulf, Africa TESOL's done amazing projects throughout this period. We're so lucky to have these communities of practice to join. Nowadays, and I want to add this to George's comments, I can turn on Zoom almost any time of the day or night and find a webinar or a session that I can enjoy with colleagues. And like George, I like to travel, and sometimes I get sad because I can't see my friends. So I just turn on Zoom, and there we all are. There you all are. Souls and Spirits, this is my my church community. We meet on Sunday mornings and have church on Zoom. I'm moving quickly here just to say that I want to end with some suggestions, some advice from a semi-retired TESOLer. I invite you to take a look at that list, read it, and identify one or two that you think might be really useful to you. We could do a whole session on it. I'm not gonna, but I've made this over the last couple of weeks because I get phone calls, Zoom calls, and other communications with former students who have been let go because intensive English programs in the US used to be the big employer of traditional TESOLers. I'm helping many of my former students and colleagues to retool themselves for what's coming next. Largely, this takes the form of instructional design, where these former TESOL, very narrowly defined TESOLers are changing their identities. One quick story is a student who lost her job as director of a very large IEP and got hired on again by the same university as director of remote learning. So she's responsible for the entire campus, and that's a happy ending story. Not all of them have happy endings. That's it. I have 28 seconds, and I want to use those to say thank you a million. I wish you all the best as we head into what will hopefully be the end of our lockdown experience. And thank you for being remotely with me today.
Thank you so much for that amazing presentation, Liz. It was great to see all those lovely pictures, and it's always great being with you. Rob, do you want to say anything?
No, thank you, Liz. That was wonderful.
Okay, now our next speaker is a wonderful friend, an EFL teacher and teacher educator with a professional doctorate in TESOL. She's worked in Pakistan and the United Arab Emirates. I'd like to welcome Naziha Ali.
Thank you. I'm just going to get my presentation up. Right. Oh, I'm not sure why I can't see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see it? Okay. But is it in presentation mode? Right. Is it? It seems
function 5. Function 5.
Right. Okay. Right. So I actually love that Liz spoke about the self, because it seems like we sort of planned this, and it moves very beautifully into my own presentation, which is about the self. So I'm going to start my timer now and place it right in front of me. Okay, so good evening from Pakistan, everybody. It's about 9:22 p.m. here. And over the next few minutes, I will share the story of my transition and my realization during the COVID-19 crisis of 2020. So at the time that the whole thing started in March 2020, I was operating as the director of professional development at a very large private chain of schools in Pakistan, which also have international campuses around the Middle East and in the UK. Now, in my role, I was responsible for the professional development and training of teachers and school leadership in the organization. This means that we were at that time in the midst of launching at least 3 new projects for the academic year 2020-2021. And some of those courses are listed here. So it was with different international service providers in the Middle East and in the UK, and also some in-house programs. And all of these were to be launched at various points between March 2020 and January 2021, with faculty actually flying in from these regions to come and deliver in Pakistan. Now, my eagerness to keep everything on track was because I was due to fly to the TESOL International Convention in March. My flight was scheduled for the 22nd of March to fly from Lahore to the UAE, spend a few days with my friends there, and then travel onwards to Denver on the 29th of March. And things actually looked good. But then on the 20th of March, at the close of business day, all staff in my workplace were asked to leave the head office and return home and stay home until further notice. And as it happened, the next morning, the airport shut down and all flights were canceled. Now, of course, what resulted was confusion over what we were supposed to do next, uncertainty over the status of our jobs and our projects, and a lot of frustration and anxiety at having no answers until the management decided that we were to meet. Now, this started a marathon of meetings at the head office in person for the first few days, much to our terror. Then telecalls over the next few days, and finally, endless online meetings because the context that I was employed in was so unprepared for any different form of learning. And then around the first week of April, we were asked to formally report back to work. And this happened at the time when most of the country was in lockdown. Of course, not everybody was happy, as it was still unsafe to do so. School heads were asked to immediately start online classes using Zoom, which permitted up to 40 minutes of free session time in the free version, and use Google Classroom to upload student work. In the meantime, the IT department was allocated the responsibility to get teachers and school heads trained to use Microsoft Teams, which was supposed to eventually become the official app of the organization that I worked for. Now, in their eagerness to train teachers and start classes, the IT team and management forgot to include critical stakeholders into the scheme of things, parents. This, of course, led to complaints about having to pay school fee for reduced hours of online classes, where teachers were still seen to be experimenting and learning how to tackle technology in their online classrooms. Towards the month of May 2020, after what seemed like endless hours of work from office and home, we gradually got teachers, students, and parents on track. And now we were ready to make the transition to reinitiating our human resource development projects or the teacher training projects that had been bumped off the calendar. All of these are online, but with a more spaced out calendar rather than the intensive training in a single go that the context was traditionally used to having. As teachers were eased into the use of Microsoft Teams, teacher training gradually resumed, and it was once a week in bite-sized format for continuity. Overall, within Pakistan, universities and schools were immediately shut down, and they were asked to declare an early and extended summer break until further notice and until a decision was made by the authorities. And academic experts and policymakers started speculation sessions online, which was a lot. So around this odd time, I sensed that it was time for a transition, some kind of a long overdue change. So at a time when everybody clung to their jobs, I resigned from mine as the Director of Professional Development. Now, this decision had been looming and was much needed and was primarily aimed at self-care and reconnecting with my professional purpose, which had not been possible for a year. I immediately made a to-do list that reprioritized my priorities as an academic. I restarted work on my publication projects that had been on the back burner for a year. I enrolled in 2 professional development certificate courses that I had been wanting to do for the last 8 months with the Association of Talent Development. So I took up Professional Coaching 1 and Evaluation 2. And finally, I found time and energy to reconnect with my international professional network, all of whom are among the EFLtalks speakers today. So 4 months down the lane today, I am looking for another job, yes, somewhere around the world, but I relish that I'm able to be part of the Career Path Development PLN. Thank you, Liz, TESOL Gulf. Thanks, Rana and George. EFLtalks. Thank you, Rob, Hind, and Fatma. I've also been able to fulfill my role in the TESOL nominating committee, participate in IATEFL Business English SIG, teacher training and education SIG, TESOL second language writing group, and engage in a research project with my colleagues in the Middle East. I clearly remember a colleague on the nominating committee once sharing how her professional development priorities were disrespected and not supported by the organization that she worked for. And she bravely chose to leave the organization. My transition feels similar, as since I left, it has been onwards to self-care and my priorities with my profession. Now, a few valuable lessons that I have learned through this period are: transition happens when it is meant to, and when it does, one must go ahead. Professional communities and associations are important, emotionally, professionally, and mentally. Self-care for educators is essential, since it not only is physical, but also mental and professional. As in my case, it helped me get back on track to work on my publishing projects and reconnecting with my professional learning networks. With that, I would like to thank you for listening to me. And here is where you can find me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naziha. That was a wonderful presentation. And we could all relate to everything you said. Thank you so much. And it's great to be with us.
I want to officially welcome you from the IATEFL BSIG. We're very
Thank you.
So now I'd like to welcome our next speaker, Rana Khan. Always great times with Rana at TESOL Gulf. Rana is the chair to the Conference Professional Council at TESOL International. She has an extensive teaching experience and is currently working as academic coordinator in Kuwait. Looking forward to your session, Rana.
Thank you, Hind.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. First, let me thank everyone, of course, at KSAALT and Rob for allowing me to be a part of EFL Talks. It's my first experience here. Thank you so much, everyone. Let me quickly share my screen. Now, my story is my story, but it's my slides are not as colorful as everyone used. The slides were, of course, beautiful. And I must say that they shared the story on the screen. So, but I will try to share it in my words. So here goes my time. I'm also putting the alarm on. So as Hind introduced me, I'm from Kuwait and I'm working as an academic coordinator at Algonquin College. I'm also the chair to the Conferences Professional Council 2021. So we invite everyone to be there, of course, virtually, as we're discussing it here. And so I've been asked to share my story. So this is the side of my story. It all started, I think, around March, but before we started, I would like to share how we were dealing with the technology that we are all talking about, how we shifted to online learning. So I will talk a little bit about the Algonquin College practices. Before the pandemic, we were using a little bit of technology in the sense that we were using the college LMS for all our sharing and dispensing of information. We also use ebooks at the foundation program. So our students had some kind of exposure to technology, but of course not the synchronous kind of technologies that we are using now. We also had included some kind of computer literacy skills in the new English and Skills Foundation program. to improve the academic skills for our learners. Besides that, we were also trying to have frequent attempts at including online assessments. Some of them, of course, failed, but we were trying. Okay, so how it all started. The news of the COVID-19 outbreak in China came to us somewhere around January. And this is exactly the same time when we had organized an ELT symposium. And my friend George, of course, who is also here as one of the EFL talker, he was the keynote speaker. And this was the time when we were trying to establish the TESOL Gulf that you all are aware of. And what's so funny is that we were thinking that the outbreak is going to be limited in China, and we were discussing how China has been able to come up with such wonderful measures. Hardly had we known that it's going to take the whole world and all of us are going to be struck wherever we are. And then we heard the news that we have to be, we have a small, we have to stay at home for 2 weeks or maybe more or less. And we heard that these neighboring countries in the Middle East have also started to think that they should extend the semesters and the teaching should be all online. We were waiting for the instructions from our institution, and finally the decision came that at least this particular semester, which was the spring semester, had to be online, which led to a lot of ambiguity and anxiety. We were not sure what we are going to do, how we're going to do it, but we started to getting ready. Then the step of planning came in. How do we implement this online learning we're also talking about? So we started looking for different kinds of platforms for synchronous teaching. And since we are a branch campus of Algonquin, Ottawa, so we take all the instructions from Ottawa. So the instructions, of course, were very clear that we have to use Zoom as one of the recommended applications. And so they set up the accounts for us, and we had an orientation session with the Algonquin team, and we were all quite anxious about how we would do it, but we were, trying to get used to the whole idea. We were given very clear instructions that we had to orient our students to the Zoom sessions, how to do that. Because, of course, people at Algonquin, Ottawa were also very, very much aware that there are problems if the students are not used to this new kind of technology. The initial limitations for us was that how would students would deal with this, and how would we as teachers would deal with it. But I think we were able to deal with it in a better way, because maybe we were using some part of technology, some form of technology in our institution. And peer support was one good factor that really helped us learn from each other. So we set up Zoom sessions where we trained with each other, and we learned from each other, the instructors and everyone. This really helped us. And it was also made clear amongst the groups that we have to have very clear communication with students, because it's really crucial for any kind of online learning to be successful. It was also planned that we will have a good balance of synchronous and asynchronous learning. The student transition was surprisingly better and smoother than expected. Maybe it could have been due to the fact that we had been using some kind of technology, and I, for myself, used a lot of digital tools, Google Docs, and other things in my classes. So students were somewhat familiar. So it didn't come to them as a surprise, but yes, Zoom sessions were very much welcomed by my students, because they felt maybe that they didn't have to travel, because our college is in the suburbs. So now they didn't have to travel, and they could learn at their own pace. So the initial sessions of the students, they really welcomed this. And I had been using some other digital tools in my classes, which really as supportive tools with the Zoom. So they really enjoyed. So I was using Edmodo, Kahoot, and Prezi. Earlier, pre-pandemic also, I added Prezi video to the Zoom session, which is a really good feature. You must all try it. We realized that there's a strong need for synchronous and asynchronous combination of learning. We definitely realized that we had to support our students on the LMS through recorded sessions of our teachings, through email support, and of course, virtual office hours, for which we were available to them anytime if they needed our support. We made it very clear to them. And I personally felt Google Docs was a great support to me because it provided the same physical presence to my students as I used when I was with them in the face-to-face classes. I could watch them both synchronously as well as asynchronously. I also honed my skills on OneNote. I'd been trying to learn OneNote for a very long time. And then I realized this is high time that I used it in my class, and it's been really useful to me. Some quick, easy tips. I would say it's very important to personalize your classes. So I always start by checking on the well-being of my students. So they are usually late. So 10 minutes is good time when I can check on them, and the other students can join during that time. It's very important to empower them, to let them choose at times when there is some kind of disengagement. And it's always good to have some kind of clear guidelines and deadlines to show them when to expect their assignments and all those things, to make them more respect the time and to help them organize. It's very important to have some kind of fun activities. Kahoot has been in my classes earlier also, so I started using it a little bit. I recently started using role play because I'm also teaching business at times. So I find it's really useful when we use role play. Whatever you teach in theory, then you make them do it in a role play. And the students, they really love it because we let them be in breakout rooms to prepare for the role plays, and they love it. We also felt that it was important to have more formative assessments rather than summative assessments, because there's no way to stop students from cheating. So it's better to have some kind of more leverage towards formative assessments. The most difficult thing for us was to align ourselves on assessments because cheating couldn't be stopped. There was more cheating, despite the fact we tried to watch over them. They always outsmarted us. So we decided to shift our focus to formative assessments, to more take-home projects, to more assignments. And so we decided the focus should be more for evaluating learning rather than to evaluate them for content learning. So this is what we tried. We are still trying to make it our main and shift our focus to that. My reflections, if I look back, I would say that technology has really proved to be my best friend pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, and the post-pandemic. It's important to consider the diversity of learners. We have sometimes, I think we have been neglecting the special needs students, how they would deal with technology, how they would deal with these kind of sessions. And of course, we need to have more affirmative assessments. Peer support is a real special tool that can help students help each other. And of course, guided communication is at the heart of everything. Oh, there goes my, I really ran like a horse. Oh my God. Okay, so I try, oh, it doesn't stop. What happened here? Okay. So I hope I've been able to communicate because the time was really short, but I tried to convey what I did, how I dealt with it. This is my contact, and thank you so much for listening to me. And I hope I was trying to, I succeeded in engaging because my slides were not as colorful as I said. I was saying, oh my God, I didn't put any good pictures here in my slides.
Oh, they were great. We had a wonderful picture of you, so we didn't need pictures.
Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you, Rana. Okay, so I don't know about you, but that seemed to go really fast. Should we start all over again?
Oh my God, yes.
It's everything went quickly,
Yes.
which is nice. If everybody can stick around, I didn't, because we wanted to get started right away. I never showed my slides, and I just wanted to just to show a couple of them, and then we're going to get a big group picture. Just to let you know, we now have officially over 400 EFL talkers. This is actually our 35th event, and we'll now have 600 CPD videos online on the EFL Talks YouTube channel. And that's over 120 hours. So while you're locked up at home and have nothing else to do, I challenge you to watch all 120 hours of EFL Talks. Yeah, right. Let's see. So everything is on EFLtalks.com. If you're not familiar with us, we just celebrated our 5th anniversary just 2 months ago, almost to the day. And we've been going at it for a while. We would hope that you all help spread the word, tell other teachers about it. The idea is we've got such a wealth of information here from these wonderful speakers, and we want to share this with everybody. And, you know, we all now are not traveling just like everybody, but as I always say, most of us are blessed because we've been able to travel and we've met each other in many cases, and we get to go to conferences, but most teachers around the world we know don't have the same reality. And this is what EFL Talks is for those teachers who aren't able to join us face to face. So just to give you some numbers, we've had, George, you're absolutely right. We have to start men's speakers only group. I won't do it. I've already gotten in trouble for my male comedy night, but we've had 251 women, 146 men, a puppet, a robot, and a frog. And if you haven't seen the puppet, the robot, and the frog, watch the recordings. And we've had the native speakers to non-native speakers. We're very proud. We've won multiple EVE awards now for our numbers. And just because there aren't enough pictures of Hind everywhere, we hope that everybody would hold up their camera and take a shot. We call it a cephaly. We're actually going to start calling it a Hind. And post it to social media. Again, we want to spread the word about this and get CPD out to everybody. We have a few books available. If you're hungry, buy my cookbook. This will help support EFL Talks. It really is a cookbook, by the way. Everybody goes, oh, is it about, you know, how to put a good good class together? No, it's how to make a meal in 10 minutes with only 10 ingredients, ours 10 and 10. And we've got about 70 recipes, and this supports EFL Talks because we don't get any sponsorship at all. Thanks again to all the wonderful speakers, to the new ones, to the old ones. And speaking of the old ones, Liz, I think I'm the oldest here. You're definitely younger than me. And really, I'll be updating the picture soon. It's going to get to the point where you won't see anybody anymore. But really, I couldn't have done any of this without the wonderful people in this picture. And, you know, this is really easy for me. I was taking a nap while you guys did all the work. No, I'm kidding. But this really has become so easy because all these wonderful people volunteered 10 minutes of their time, volunteered 10 minutes of their expertise. And it's amazing how much the people here in this community have taught me, have taught others, and share. And I welcome anybody out there who's listening. We hope that you join us, become part of EFL Talks. And you can go to EFLtalks.com. Everything is there, our Facebook page, our Twitter, our you know what, everything else in the YouTube channel. So without all these people, I couldn't do it. And thank you so much to everybody here in the audience who's spent time with us. And I'd like first all the talkers, if you're here, turn on your camera so Hin can get a cephaly with everybody.
Yes.
Yes.
And we would like our KSAALT TESOL board members as well to join us.
How's my hair, Hind?
Okay. Okay, I need to put it on gallery view. Okay.
Everybody smile. Yay. All right, and I welcome everybody in the audience. If you could turn on your, I don't know if you can turn on your cameras. It's probably blocked. No, it's blocked. Okay,
Yeah.
We'll imagine you. A big round of applause. Fatima, thank you. Hind, you did a great job organizing and co-hosting and moderating and everything you do. Thank you to all the speakers. Thank you to everybody who watched, and the recordings will be up on the YouTube channel within a few days. But stay tuned. We'll have more EFL talks coming real soon. I'm sure George, Hind, Grazi, you're always coming up with something for me to do. So I'll be more than happy to do it, and it's a pleasure. So
Thank you.
We'd like to keep you busy, Rob.
You're doing a good job of it. Thank you.
Before we leave, Rob, I must say something. I mean, we were all talking about how we connected, and George talked about so much we did at TESOL Galvin. But I was remembering how when you came to TESOL Kuwait conference, you talked about EFL Talk, remember?
Yes, I do.
EFL Talk. So you started it a long time ago before we could all, even think about it, isn't it? This idea came all from you.
Yeah, it's been 5 years. I mean,
Imagine.
I'm not the first to do it, but I mean,
yes.
What was different about it is I wanted to make the short videos, the 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And make it easy for teachers to be able to, to come back and learn something quickly. So yeah, it's 5 wonderful years of doing it. And actually, you were one of the first live presentations in Kuwait, and I still have my boat in the other room.
Yes, I remember that. Yes.
But it was great. And I hope to be back in Kuwait. I hope to be back everywhere.
Yes, Saudi Arabia too.
I'll be more than happy. I promised Grazia 3 times I'd get to Honduras, trying to get anywhere. I'd be happy just to get out of the house, okay? So, but it'll be over soon. We'll be back. I'll see Catherine in Boston. We'll get some chowder. But thank you. Anybody else want to say how wonderful I am? I mean, or say anything?
Oh, you're really good. You're really good. I really need to say that out loud, since this is also a collaborative KSAALT TESOL event. Rob, you're simply amazing. And thank you so much for, being with us, and to the wonderful closing of the Fast Forward series that was started initially by brainstorming, me and Hind and all that. And then we finally were able to make a series out of it and host everybody on board. I'm so glad that this came out so well. Everybody over here, thank you so much. All the speakers. I mean, I'd like to take all the names: George, Grazia, Dr. Crystal, Anastasia, Naziha, Liz, Catherine, Andrana. Thank you so much. James, I think he left, I believe. Yes. And partner in crime, my partner in crime, Hind. She's always there with me, both of us, we do everything, simultaneously together.
Yeah, true.
At
I
the
will
same
stop the
time,
recording now.
here,
Oh, yes,
He's
yes.
doing-
I think we could do that. Thank you so much. Even I'm going to stop the recording. Yes. Again, thank you very much and take care, everybody. We are having a working day tomorrow. So, but the rest of the world, happy weekend.